Hey everybody, we're going to be talking to Daniel Barron Corrales today. And I'm just going to be connecting with him. We did a test earlier and it seemed to be working. So we'll give Daniel a second. If anybody has any questions for Daniel, use the question mark icon at the bottom, or you can write in the comments and we can try to answer them. Oops, sorry. Connecting with Daniel. Hey.
Hey.
Sorry, I just realized I didn't turn off all the notifications on my phone, so I don't know, you might want to do the same too. Sometimes, like if people are texting or trying to call, it'll mess up the video.
Oh, okay.
Something to think about.
I'm not sure how to do that.
Well, I can hear you and see you, so let's just
All
keep. Cool. It looks like you have a bunch of work there behind you.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah.
A lot of new stuff. I think I've been pretty productive during this quarantine, but
yeah, I've seen some photos of the colorful stuff, the red and yellow stuff behind you, and I didn't realize you had so many of those pieces.
yeah, actually considering making it all one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I like them as a group. It's a different situation that happens when they're all joined together.
Yeah, so you're managing to stay busy, huh? You already had your studio at home for a while now, right?
Yeah, I started in the garage and then I took over a room in the 3 bedroom as a studio, and then I've got a big yard. So
Yeah, I know Isabel and I went and did a studio visit with you. It was quite a while ago now. You were working out of the garage and you showed us the backyard and stuff. And you were our artist in resident in 2018. I think that's why we went and visited you, just to see what was going on before you were the artist in resident. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. I remember you guys coming in and there only being like there's half a garage but only 4 places to stand with a clear floor space.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I'm used to that though. I mean, my studio's pretty hectic. I kind of work the same way. And I actually have a photo I wanted to show too of your studio when you had it here in the building, of just the kind of chaos in it.
Oh,
Yeah, I
it's
think, some people just end up working like that.
yeah, it's hard to have a clean studio and try to remember all the materials you have or all the little things you're interested in.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
that's why you just keep it all out at the same time.
yeah. I mean, seems logical, right?
Yeah, for me. Works for Bruce Nauman too. I know a lot of other artists are pretty messy. Um, but backing up just a little bit, is that your childhood home?
It is.
Wow, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I moved out when I was 18, 19, to El Cajon Boulevard, and then somewhere off of college, and I was doing film then. And then
Did
somehow,
you grow up? So you grew up in South Bay? Did you? So you've been in that house since you were a kid. So you must have gone to school.
yeah,
Did you go to Hilltop, or where did you go?
this Nestor Elementary School, and then Mar Vista Middle, and then Montgomery High School.
Okay.
So they were never really close to my house, but they were in the neighborhood.
I know part of what your family has done has been working in fabrics for a really long time. You told me a story a while ago about the way that your mom had to go up to LA to go to fabric wholesalers and then back to San Diego all in the same morning before getting you to school.
I would go with her.
Oh, no way.
I would go with her, yeah.
I remember, I think your mom was there when you guys were telling me the story, but yeah, I mean, tell us about that, growing up in a family with a, single mother busting her ass.
First of all, I mean, just total respect and total, I mean, my mother was a hustler and just made it happen. I mean, owned her own house, and then had a business car, and then had the family car, take us to and from our activities, from, I don't know, swimming or whatever. But I mean, managed to keep us somewhat in line.
Yeah. Do you have other siblings and stuff? Do you have brothers
Yeah.
and sisters?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Youngest,
Just
yeah.
that story is like so intense, of your mom going from South Bay, San Diego to LA to buy wholesale fabrics, to come back to San Diego, get you guys to school, and then also be selling fabrics in San Diego. So that's part of what you guys have been doing for a long time, right?
30 something years. I was the carpool kid. Basically, I should put me in the car, let me sleep all the way up, and then so she can take the carpool, so she can go to LA from 2 a.m, be up there. Should be up there by 5, and we'd have to be back in San Diego by 8 for me to go to school at 8.
Yeah. What was that like, showing up to school? Was it normal, or were you ragged and not thinking about schoolwork?
I think I was always pretty. I've never had a very good relationship with school. I'm pretty sure that didn't help, but yeah, to me, it was normal. I was always like a quiet kid anyway, so being tired and all that other stuff, I never really even took into account. Maybe once I was older, it became, I guess hindsight made it a little more apparent that it probably affected my schoolwork and all that. But I'm dyslexic anyway, so they were all
right. So,
anyway, so.
Has that affected, the way you went about going to school, or went about making artwork, or anything like that? Or
Yeah,
you seem to have conquered it pretty well. I mean, you I don't know.
No, I mean, dyslexia is just trouble with symbols and translating them and retaining the information. Not so much that you see things backwards, but it's a retention thing. That I think, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What was the question again? I lost my train of thought.
I'm just thinking, like, you're also bilingual. Do you know your family's history? When, did they come to the US, or did you have trouble learning English or Spanish growing up? Or
I say Spanish was my first language, but I moved here when I was 5. So at a 5-year-old level, Spanish was my first language. And then I started going to school here, and I lost it completely. So I think somewhere around high school, I had to make an effort to relearn it, and even still now, I honestly still have an accent,
like an American accent.
Yeah. Or I guess it's pocho, which is like a fronterizo, which is always the like a point of contention as a kid when your Mexican side of the family is telling you, oh, you're not saying it right, or
yeah. I think Ponca talked about that a little bit, kind of her moving to TJ when she had already lived in the US for a long time. But it's so interesting, we've had Daniela yesterday. She was born in Mexicali, Claudia, near Mexico City, and the list just goes on and on. Griselda, so many people. Also, because San Diego's so close to the border, so many people that have settled here are immigrants. And your story and the story of your mom just hustling to kind of get the money going, is just pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think something about, there's a mixture between the dyslexia, the growing up with, I wouldn't say low means, but definitely not. It was a lot.
Yeah.
I think mixed. I don't know. I think it made the perfect storm for attempting to be an artist.
So when did you first start thinking of art terms? Did you draw a lot? Did you play around with sculpture? I mean, you obviously now are such a tactile person. I've known you for a while, so you're also somebody that you tinker and fix things and build things constantly, not just artworks. You're just one of those people. Um,
Yeah, I think working with my hands has always been the way that I got my endorphins as a kid,
mhm.
right? So fixing things around the house, taking apart my bike, building a tree house, building skate ramps. Um, I could never impress with the education, like reading or
Mhm.
writing. You know, even drawing. For me, drawing is a challenge because the hand-eye conversation is hindered with dyslexia. So my handwriting is
Really?
terrible.
Do you honestly think that? I've never even considered what that would even be like, but
It, I mean, it's a challenge when it's symbols, right? Because I
mhm.
never have consistent handwriting. It's always, I don't know. It's just a part of it. A messy
Yeah,
hand.
wow.
Yeah. Um,
Wild.
a lot of
So,
symbols tend to leak into my work
mm,
because of that. But at the same time, uh, since there's that separation, I can analyze it differently. You know,
yeah.
there's that I think art is something that I've had that benefit with too, because I was never really exposed to art as a kid
Mhm.
to say that anything past Picasso. I don't think I
Right.
went to an art museum until I was 23.
Yeah, I feel like I have a pretty similar story in that sense too for where I understood what art was and where I got it. But um, I know part of what you do for work now is sell these fabrics still, and I know it's probably changed, but I think you kind of grew up at swap meets and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Tell us about that growing up, in Spring Valley swap meet, basically, or where else you guys were selling, or
yeah. Spring Valley swap meets. The it's been the hub that's kept our family afloat. My mother having
has
this.
that always been the swap meet that you guys sold at, or?
It has, yeah, yeah. That swap meet, I always um, appreciated it because it has so many different people and so many different objects.
Yeah,
It's this colorfully chaotic.
right.
It's like
I'm for good and bad, I'm quite the collector and hoarder of shit.
my
You
my
know,
fellow junkie.
Yeah, and I've ran into you at the swap meet,
Oh yeah,
before you were the artist in residence, before I really got to know you. And I remember we were both kind of like, it was at Spring Valley, and we were, you're kind of like, oh, what's up, and I'm talking to you, and
yeah,
we were both like looking at stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is this dude doing? He's trying to
yeah.
buy my stuff that I'm eyeballing over here.
And it's
It's kind of,
and it's always tough because when you see somebody else is also a junk junkie,
mm-hmm,
you're saying hello, but you're making sure they're not beating you to anything too.
right. Yeah, I mean, so you grew up kind of in this atmosphere of like wheeling and dealing and
Yeah,
people repurposing and reusing materials and just kind of bringing new life to stuff. That's something that I've always loved about going to the swap meet. It is kind of a freak show. It's almost like a gallery setting, like you're saying. It's just kind of it's this exciting moment of seeing colorful things and broken things and
yeah. And then on the other, like another hand of that, when you start talking about like the personal relationship to the flea market,
mm-hmm,
it's a lot of families surviving, and it's
mm-hmm,
a lot of
right,
families networking together, sharing food, sharing resources, as simple as uh, lending a broom
right,
or keeping an eye on someone's stall while they go to the bathroom, or keeping an eye on the neighborhood kids. I mean, we've been at that flea market since I was 5. I was allowed to walk around alone with my
mm-hmm,
swap meet friends because I've got friends that I've known since I was 5 at the swap meet
right.
that are um, probably some of my oldest friends. And we'd go and we'd run around. I think I was at 8 years old. I was allowed to run around in the little rat pack of flea market kids.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of grew up going and doing swap meet stuff too, because I grew up in East County and we had the Santee swap meet out there, and we would go sell stuff and buy stuff, and we would also go to Spring Valley when I was the same age, and that place hasn't changed. It's kind of the Wild West, like one of the last flea markets or swap meets that's kind of left in San Diego. Usually they're old drive-ins that have closed or have become just these kind of places to sell stuff. But so after the drive-in kind of, or the swap meet kind of stuff, were you thinking about art at that time, like in high school, or did you have teachers or people that you were, telling you about art? Because I know you also went to art school, right?
I studied film. I
Okay,
studied
whoa.
film at Southwestern College. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that. So why film?
Yeah, I mean, film to me seemed like a logical step because I was always the kid in a high school with a camera. I was skateboard filming, so I always wanted to be my goal in life was to be a skateboard filmer, a professional
I
cinema.
mean, for sure, I know exactly what you're saying because I grew up skateboarding in the, late 80s, early 90s, and, handheld camcorders became really accessible and,
Yeah. And a staple in that community
for
because you
sure.
had to see what you were doing wrong from another perspective, right? But then there was this whole other industry that was kind of taken over, which was the skate videos and seeing skaters start their own companies and start making serious money. To me, film was a way to work with my hands because I didn't have to do a whole lot of reading and writing, and still produce something of cultural value, or maybe not that. Maybe it was more where I could express my curiosity, because from having like a manual inclination as a kid, the film to art, everything has been, the thread between that has been this like curiosity. As a kid, I was always very inquisitive, taking things apart, and then skateboarding, that was a way to analyze what was happening, right? And then when I jumped into film, I was really interested in the interweaving of stories, right?
So how far did you take the film fascination? I mean, what was your plan? Just kind of learning about all the details of it, or were you trying to make films, or were you experimenting with things, or?
I made a 16 millimeter film at Southwestern that never saw the light of day. I think at that point, I had trouble putting together a group of filmmakers that were dedicated, at the level that an ambition that I had. But I was at a community college, and nothing against it, but there was a handful of us, and we couldn't fill all the jobs necessary, right?
Yeah, film has got a lot of moving parts. It's not just.
And then I found art, and at that point, I started doing these reverse glass paintings. I got really excited about it. I realized that art honestly had so much more landscape to explore.
I grabbed a photo of one of your reverse glass paintings.
Wow, that thing's a half-inch thick and 6 feet tall.
So did you start this before you moved to San Francisco? Were you in San Diego and you were painting, or?
Yeah, I was in San Diego. I was doing like reclaimed objects and then doing collages on top of them. And then to me, there was a part of me that was really interested in making trash valuable, the alchemic moment, taking something out of a construction site, because I grew up working construction, and building a surrounding that gave it value because of those gestures, so a lot, I mean, if you think about it, it was something that was kind of swap meet mindset driven, to see to have that fascination of creating your own merchandise out of trash.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that, that swap meet education, I mean, you can kind of sell anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so that is kind of a good early art wheeling and dealing education.
My mom makes fun of me because I bought a candy box full of road apples, and I thought it was the funniest thing. It was horse poop in a candy box, and my mom comes back and she's like, man, if you put your mind to it, anybody can sell anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, I still have it somewhere, but it was a big lesson as a buyer.
Yeah. So what made you move north? What were you thinking to leave San Diego if San Diego was such a heart and soul of how your family was making money and all that kind of stuff? I know you still help to this day selling stuff, but
Yeah.
what was the move all about?
I did I didn't know about Ice Gallery, and I didn't know about all the things that were happening in 2009 in San Diego.
Yeah.
You know, there was there was things happening, but I guess I couldn't find them, and
Right.
I kept seeing that if I wanted to pursue this as a career, and I wanted to make this happen to that level, I needed to go where there was a little competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to San Francisco and got my ass handed to me on a silver platter constantly, and just got I got education like from doing shows. I tried to take a break for a year, and
So you weren't pursuing school up there. You just went to move up there.
yeah. I just wanted to do shows, and I wanted to learn from a community. To
Yeah.
me, school was never financially viable, and it was never anything that made any sense. I never to me school was never really an option.
Mm-hmm.
You know, school was something that I had to get through to experience life, because um, you get told that you're learning disabled
Mm-hmm.
since second grade to high school. At some point, you just want to get through it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get it's a strange situation, but it gave me perspective on a lot of things that I value now.
So when you're up there, were trying to have shows? It sounds like you were just going up there to try and meet people and have shows. Did you actually show work up there? Or?
I did. I tried to take a year off as soon as I got up there, and I think within 6 months I was part of a group show, and then I got involved with a little gallery called um, Driftwood Salon. I'm not sure if they're still there, but they started showing my work consistently, and then more shows popped up around that. Gallery 1805. 1805. Well, it's another gallery in the Fillmore that also started supporting me a bunch. Uh, Melanie and Melora Green, like they're also a real staple of.
Mm-hmm.
I think at some point you start questioning. I started questioning, is this really possible? And then started seeing a little light within those community, like those galleries started supporting me and
Were
got
you
me
going to
got
were
me
you
over.
going to museums and stuff? Did you go and see a lot more art? Is that when you first got to see what was happening, or
No,
oh, so
no. I
you
mean,
didn't take advantage of the museums and everything?
I went to every show. I went to me. I was trying to take the Andy Warhol approach.
I don't
He,
even know what that would be, but
he would go to all the openings, and the
uh-huh.
joke was that you could find Andy Warhol at a drawer opening. You know,
Yeah.
and I did that. I just went to all the shows and made friends.
I
And
mean that is definitely important. It's very important, and um, I think that it's a great way to get an education for your community. It's a great way to show your face. Just for people out there listening. I mean, um, when we look at artist in residence applications, I pay attention if somebody says that they've never been to the building before,
yes,
because people will spill the beans sometimes and say, I just found about your website in found about you guys on your website in San Diego, never been to the gallery, but I'm hoping to apply for the residency, and it's
yeah.
like, well, come show your face, meet people, shake hands, whatever.
But
Um,
but it's also just building a visual vocabulary, right?
yeah.
And knowing what's happening in the present. I had a friend once tell me that you need to know um, art history, you need to know art present so you can investigate an art future,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I take that serious when it comes to art present and art history now. But yeah, I don't know. The present is it, you make friends and you do shake hands and you do all that, but ultimately is knowing what's happening in now and around you.
Yeah. Did you have a studio in San Francisco, or were you just painting at home, or what were you doing?
I lived in a house where the closet was outside of the bedroom. So
Mm-hmm.
the hallway was a walk-in closet. And I put my bed in the closet. I put my clothes in the closet, put my bike in the closet. It would only fit a queen-sized bed and a bicycle. And the bedroom was my studio. So I
Mm-hmm.
lived in a closet for 2 or 3 years. And then I moved in with my girlfriend at the time that was really supportive and gave me she basically let me put our bedroom in a closet, and it was a mess. Basically, San Francisco, there's not a lot of space, but most artists make the most of what there is.
Yeah.
The good thing about San Francisco is that you can find junk on the streets. Like that's really, man, you think the swap meet's fun? Try
Yeah.
walking around San Francisco after school is let out, and people are putting couches, televisions. Really, I don't know. I still have things that I collected from that time. That I treasure that are like, I don't know, rusty tools, or
Yeah.
since that city has such history and such old homes, they do get rid of some really cool stuff.
Yeah. Every big city is kind of a neat place to just kind of wander around and look. Um, so at what point did you move back to San Diego? Is that when you started? I mean, I first started hearing about you doing things at SDAI. Is
Okay.
that kind of when you came back, or?
No, no, I mean, I came back in 2013. I took about a year off and then started showing at La Bodega.
Okay.
Yeah. And then,
What were you showing then? Were you showing paintings or?
yeah, little paintings. Excuse me. And I started working with textile then, because it was something that I kind of denied in my practice because it was too obvious.
Right. It
It
seems
felt
like
too
this
obvious.
whole time you were just trying to find something else, but I mean, just, realizing that you had sewing skills and
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, it's such a natural, but of course you're going to avoid it. Uh,
It was yeah, I don't know. Not having an art education, you don't get that type of good advice. And I think that's some good advice that I got, was to let self into the work, right?
yeah.
And and that's taken me a long time to let in, right? Uh,
So it's crazy though, like the stuff that I started seeing of yours was like huge. So what was the point where you had this jump in scale? It sounds like you were doing paintings and little things, showing in group shows. Like what made you go big? And I mean like big. Like the
ginger,
stuff.
ginger porcella, porcella,
Yeah.
gave me the space, gave me the money, and gave me the time of day, and just
How did
honestly,
Ginger approach you? How did you find out about SDAI or Ginger? Or Ginger was the curator or director at
yeah.
SDAI. Um,
So I went to go see a friend's sculpture, and she was walking around the gallery, and I introduced myself and wanted to thank her for doing something forward thinking in San Diego.
mhm.
Because before then, as soon as I came back, I still had SDAI in my mind, like horses and fruit bowls and
Yeah.
handmade jewelry.
Hmm.
And I came back and saw this, and I just thanked her. I thanked her and introduced myself, and that's it. I was ready to walk away, and my girlfriend at the time said, "No, he's an artist. He's an artist."
Yeah.
And so I ended up giving her my card then, um, but from there, slowly, I just started going to all the shows, and I applied to their artist in residency program.
Hmm.
Um, and I got the rejection letter, but with a but at the end of it. And she says, "But give me a call, and we'll set up a meeting." I was so excited for that meeting. I couldn't sleep. I drew. I didn't even know what she was going to ask me.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I showed up with models of things I wanted to do. I showed up with drawings. I showed up so I don't know. I was just naive. I just didn't even know.
So, but that's interesting because I mean, what you don't know, I mean, leaves no boundary because you don't know that you can't do it. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I want to try and show this video. Oh, it will work, dude. Tell me about what is going on in this video. Can you see this?
So she told me to make a sculpture up in these rafters in this empty space, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do that," but I didn't know I could. Um, but I was in no position to say no. So I made this out of things from Home Depot and fabric that one of my fellow sellers at the swap meet gave me, and
Mm-hmm.
I made an inflatable sculpture that rotated at the viewer's touch. So the viewer got to choose what direction it turned. Um, I mean, not being an engineer, I probably put in more money and time and effort than I should have. But
So I just don't understand how you go from painting on glass to doing this just
I
because Ginger asked you to do something. I don't understand that I mean, maybe it just happens. I mean, I don't know. There are these like sea change moments
I
where all of a sudden you do things, but I mean, get us there. How did you arrive at doing this big work?
I was making these tunnels, and I had been fixated on these tunnels for maybe 5 years. And to me, this one image was the image, and to me, it felt so like a universal language of humanity, and I had all these big thoughts. And at some point I realized that I was making pretty things.
You
And
mean the paintings? Is that what
yeah,
you mean?
yeah.
So back to this kind of thing.
So I made a bunch of those tunnels. And at some point I got really frustrated that I kept holding myself to this image, and it opened my practice up, because out of frustration I was like, fuck it. I mean, oh, I guess this is not live television or anything. Um, you know, to hell with it. What am I doing? I'm making these images uh, that didn't feel honest anymore. So I wanted to make things that were ugly, and ugliness at that point was the jumping off point for the work.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was just when I started applying to things, and you know, Ginger put me into a group show with this little fabric sculpture, and then she gave me that opportunity, and I figured I will never have this opportunity again.
Mm-hmm.
So hit it hard, and I invested twice the amount of money that they gave me to make that happen.
Well, I mean, when it comes to making work for a show, I mean, it doesn't do you any good to try and to budget. Basically, if you have a vision, I mean, you better not be counting your pennies to try to, you know, see if you can get it done. You better have an open book to try to finish the idea. But
I've always figured, if you're going to jump off the edge of the cliff, don't hold on to the edge.
mm-hmm.
Has always been the way I approach art making.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this piece, which you can go to your Instagram, there's lots of photos of the finished piece. But I just feel like, and I know that, you know, I've had moments where I just all of a sudden switch gears, or I kind of looked at everything differently. But I mean, just the way that you're approaching this, you're using this massive, you're all of a sudden, you're probably thinking like, my studio could be outside. I don't need to be in a 10 by 10 place painting in a dark room or something. You know, I could be building things with my hands and, you know, utilizing the materials that are in front of me and all that kind of stuff. This is this pretty neat epiphany kind of moment that I've seen in your work the way.
About working inside in a rainy environment, Bay Area, and then coming to San Diego, and then having a big united family that has history in construction.
Yeah.
I have family history in textiles, the flea market, and I have all the support, right? I have the support system that let me explore these things. And my friends that I had made through the moped community helped me weld all the things together. My friend Owen, And then my uncles helped me go and make sure that the structure at SDAI could hold up the space. They
Yeah,
gave me
I'm a
and
little.
2 days later I showed up with a construction crew. They were wearing their construction shirts, and we came
Yeah.
in, we measured everything, but I had never done anything like that. I just didn't want to lead on. I didn't want to let them know that I hadn't. So I was going
Well,
to come
right. I mean, it's a
full
fake it
professional.
till you make it. The
Honestly,
construction vest probably fooled a lot of people. I think if they would have just saw a bunch of dudes coming in, they would have said, "No, let's get an engineer in here."
yeah.
The photos are pretty incredible, and that is a very cool piece. I mean, just this video of you testing it outside is just fucking cool.
Yeah.
I want to jump forward a little bit, and then this is your studio at Bread and Salt, but
Wow.
I know because the way the video is, this is kind of crappy, but I was so inspired when I saw you go in there, because you came in, and this is something that we always hope that people do. We hope that every artist that comes in treats the space differently. So Melissa Walter, I think, was before you. Am I wrong?
No. I actually got to know you on a more personal level because I was volunteering my time to Mel. And
Oh,
that's
I think also
Melissa.
because I called and complained about some electrical that you did in the building. I was like, call whoever that dude was that came on the moped and did that ghetto electric work. Tell him to come back and fix it. But I
Mel.
I realized at that time, though, because Melissa told me about you and you were helping. That's the kind of stuff that I pay attention to. Who's coming around, and Amanda Cachadorian also came to help you, and that's how we got to know Amanda. I'm not saying that everybody needs to come and lend a hand. It's more about just showing your face in our community, because when it comes to Bread and Salt reaching out and having people participate in the community, we want to know that people are part of that community. So you did it without asking beforehand. You just came to lend a hand, and that's such an impressive part of the arts community, is when somebody needs help, generally there's another artist there to jump in and help.
But the key there is community,
Right.
being aware that I don't, like, this is community. We need to treat it as such. And in that is bringing value. You want to bring value to a community,
Right.
While to others, while bringing value to yourself. Or
Right.
I don't know how that dynamic works, but it's definitely, you can't expect a plant to grow without water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And just going back to the studio, what I started to say, and I got carried away, but Melissa is very meticulous. She's very, clean when she's creating work. I mean, now she's experimenting with other stuff, but I can't remember who was after Melissa. It was Andrew Alcacid or something, and then you. But I can't remember. But you approached the studio in a way similarly that Max Lafano currently also is approaching the studio. And also how I kind of approach a studio, like generally, like I just kind of lay it out there,
Yeah.
But you can see also in this photo, this is what I love. This is a great example of your studio and how I've seen you work at home too. The quality of that work that's on the wall is clean. It's very clean, and it's almost like you needed this mess to help clarify how precise the work on the wall is.
The bottom, almost right in the middle, there's this little squiggly line. Just posted that as a finished work.
Oh, cool.
I dug that out of my studio mess, and realized that it was something that needed to see the light of day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a part of the process, and sometimes it's the work. There's all throughout here that show the progression to that piece over there. Yeah.
I'm glad that Melissa and Kari are jumping in there. Kari's like, I was there before Jamie.
Kari was there before me.
And Andrew.
I actually helped Andrew in his wedges at Ice Gallery.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, my brain is so filled with all these great artists that we've had, and but just kind of to keep moving, I just thought of these pieces that you made during your residency, and that shape that you had on the wall with the mirror was really cool.
Yeah.
And I ended up with a piece of yours at that time that we traded. I think you asked to do a trade, and
Yeah.
so I have a fabric piece of yours, but I also purchased a piece from you around that time, which I love this piece that I have at home that I bought from you. I think it was during your residency. I can't remember. Or no, it was afterwards.
After, yeah.
But the precision in your sewing skills and everything too. Where did you learn how to sew and use a sewing machine?
I broke. Well, I mean, as a kid, my mom always kept me around her while she was sewing. Before we sold fabric, my mom made clothes and sold them at department stores and did consignment, did all that to help us survive. And then at some point she sold her remnants at the flea market, and that took off, right? So that started being a thing. But while she was sewing and while she was doing all that to keep me entertained, she'd bring me in and explain what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how, as a kid, I was always wanting to know how things worked.
Yeah.
It explained to me and explained to me and explained to me, and my dyslexic mind would forget it. And at some point in San Francisco, I couldn't afford Christmas gifts because I was, it was just retail. It was just not a very plentiful time. So I learned to sew. I bought a sewing machine at Target.
Okay.
Broke it, returned it, bought another one, broke it, returned it, and then I finally called my mom. I was like, "Mom, what am I doing wrong?" And then we stayed connected that way, and she taught me how to sew over the phone.
Wow.
And at some point, I made messenger bags for everybody.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then
I've seen your sewing machine now, though. You have like an industrial sewing machine, don't you?
Yeah, now, yeah. I sold my walking foot, which is the upholstery one, but I have a straight stitch that's an overlock, which is the family business.
Just this was kind of the first piece that I saw of yours that started to get really more refined in your sewing method and also your construction method. You can't really see in this piece, but there's a mirror. It's dimensional and it's very clean, and it has a hanging apparatus on the back. I was like, I have to buy that piece. That is like,
that one's hand sewn.
Oh, really? You're lying.
That one I stitched by hand. Yeah. So that one on the inside, if you look into the mirror, you can see the stitches. So I wanted to show the process through the inside, through the mirror.
Whoa, I'm an idiot.
And then the back side is where the stitches are. You can see the stitches. So
but the paneling and the construction, I mean, you obviously, you had a lot of thought process into creating that object.
Yeah, that little hole is, I think, a little throwback to the film days, a little cinematic frame.
Yeah. Oh, it's neat. Just going back a little bit and just thinking about you deconstructing and messing with things that you find. I mean, these pieces are so cool with these movable parts. I think Bob Matheny bought this piece from you.
Bob bought that one, yeah. Yeah, that's actually made out of the guts of a swap meet, the little swap meet toy, the dogs that walk and bark. Yeah. And I was using those as the inside of my mechanical sculptures for a good bit. I mean, I don't think it's done. I have a bit of a wide approach to art making, but it's all part of a vocabulary that I'm building.
Yeah. This piece is it's got a little bit of humor in it. As time has gone on, I feel like you definitely created this vocabulary that's totally you. I mean, this thing is like shaking the cord alone. Like it's just shaking the cord on this static sculpture.
Yeah.
It's a really great piece, and I'm kind of jealous Matheny got it before I did.
I think the way I describe that work is like a snarky remark to the postmodern condition, like the whole idea of postmodernism, that this is like a snarky remark to that, like with a little bit of humor.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. I guess kind of transitioning from there, I mean, we're gonna run out of time, but I really another time being able to be in this show with you at Southwestern College. I mean, this is a crappy cropping of that, but this piece, I'm sure a lot of people saw it, but I mean, I probably just was gushing over this piece with you. I was like blown away at everybody's work in that show. This was the Bruce Nauman Dark exhibition that we all did, that Perry Vasquez curated at Southwestern College. They were kind of reopening the Bruce Nauman sculpture that they had kind of refound, and it was such a great show to participate in, and the caliber of work that everybody did was just like through the roof. And you blew my mind. I think you heard me talk about this piece over and over and over again.
Yeah, but you refused to write about it.
Right about it?
Yeah.
I don't. Did you ask me to write about it?
I did.
Well, I don't know.
Nah, I'm just messing with you. I didn't know what I was doing to it. I honestly work from I try to work from an instinctual place. And at that time, I didn't really know what was happening there, right? And I think a little hindsight on it, I've come to know what was happening and how the dynamic of that situation of the glass, and I'm thinking of basically I bring together different elements to create a condition, and sometimes that condition needs to live and have a conversation between its parts before it can really have a voice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that most artwork needs a little bit of time after it's made, and even after you show it sometimes, to get the full view of a piece. I mean, this piece is stuck in my brain since you made it, and I don't know, I think so many times artwork is just thought-provoking, and you'll learn from it for years.
This was definitely one of those moments for me.
Yeah.
I got a grant for this one from it's an organization through UCLA, the accessibility grant, but I think they're UCLA based, and that money gave me the opportunity to buy expensive materials and really do something above and beyond. I think ultimately you can make art with what's available, but personally, my biggest leaps forward have been when I had a little money to explore new materials. The SDAI Injure gave me money and space. Here Perry gave us money as well. And space,
right,
and freedom's the key element there. Is that
right? I mean, that show in particular. That show, there was no limit. They just let us loose and told us we could do whatever. I mean, and you see what you get. You got a great show by letting artists do what they do.
The trust in the people that you're involved with.
Yeah, so this is a steel backhoe bucket. That thing weighs hundreds of pounds, and you
175.
Yeah, and you recreated the surface of it and made it this light and fluffy, cushy kind of object. I don't know. And
I upholstered it. The bucket's still in there.
Right. Oh, I know. I'm just saying.
The motor's a winch, so it made a really loud noise. Was the other thing. So.
Yeah, and it goes back to these objects and you repurposing things, and it's all you right there. That piece is so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of time. I want to talk about a few more things. These other new pieces that you're doing. These small fabric pieces, I mean, these are pretty small, but they also have this kind of sense of humor and visual sensibility that you've kind of developed. There's a little bell inside this object, and it looks like on some of these pieces that you can actually manipulate them. I'm not sure. You tell me about these.
No, these are little canvas sculptures with where the negative space is covered with a mesh, but that little bell is connected to the tag, and
Oh, okay.
that is where I signed the work. So if you move the tag, the bell moves.
Oh, cool.
Creating creating a space that's unaccessible with value in it, of even if it's unattainable,
Yeah.
you'll see it. You know, I think it's, I keep using the word condition, but I think that's something I've been doing a lot of writing in my work, and that's the word that keeps popping up. Is I think in these I'm creating an unaccessible condition where we place value on these things, or place value on this conceptual space or theoretical space, and don't really have access to it. You know, we make assumptions, and we add value to it, even if this is a take on Marcel Duchamp's toilet, right? So this is
See that.
the symbolic value, right?
Yeah. We do have a question here. How has your practice shifted at all during this weird time? So is this coronavirus pandemic affected the way you make work or work at all? Are you guys going to the swap meet and selling? Are you buying fabric or?
Yeah, right now we're not really going to LA. We're because not everything is open. So the people that are contacts up there are either not working or are being swarmed with the fabric. Only fabric that's selling right now is cotton fabric for the masks.
Oh, right.
And we have a bunch of it, but it has a pattern on it. And the big orders and the people who are buying wholesale are looking for plain. But so yeah, it's been a tough time because they shut down the flea market. But you know, we're survivors. I mean, we survive. That's what we do best. And I've never been one to live outside of my means. So, you know, I think that's something that an artist should always be thinking about, is that, you know, you might have a paycheck this month, but not the next. So to keep your costs low, your overhead low.
Yeah, I mean, you don't drive a flashy car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you drive a utility vehicle that works for the type of artwork you do and the type of work you do, and it's important. What has it done to your artwork? What has been happening with your artwork?
I think I was already on a thread of creating smaller things, right? And so I've just kind of been sticking to that. I don't want to let it affect my work in a direct way. I don't want to talk about it. I really don't have interest in creating work that talks about, I don't know, issues like this.
Yeah, I think it can be difficult sometimes to do overtly political stuff or things that are just so honed into one moment, because, you know, time keeps moving, and eventually something might seem a little out of context if you just make, you know, something that's completely topical.
One of my goals as an artist from early on has always been to speak to an audience in the future.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's always been an underlying thing. Excuse me. I you know, if you're trying to make things for now, or for a trend that's happening now, you're yesterday 2 seconds ago, right?
Right. In the last few minutes, do you want to show us anything in your studio, or?
Oh yeah, these little guys.
I think we have about 5 minutes. I might get cut off, but.
All right. So these little guys are little sculptures I'm working on that are paper.
Oh, cool.
So it's an envelope with a little postcard drawing inside of it, but I wanted to stand it up, and I like the idea of something that's traditionally a flat work, doing it three-dimensional, right? And again, here the value of art usually is in the signature. So the signature is on the envelope, not the painting or the drawing, right? And then again with these, it's the same thing. Oh, here's a little something of, here are the sketches of the things that, I don't know, I think are studies or things to
Yeah.
come. Check this one out.
Well, those are cool. Whoa, that's really neat, man.
They're just like how I kind of clear my thoughts, but eventually
Yeah.
they become work.
I really like those. I'm hoping that you'll be willing to add stuff to our artist store where the 100% of the proceeds go to the artist. That might be a way for you to get some extra cash in this time.
Yeah,
It's
that'd be great.
things have been selling on there. We've sold a lot of stuff. So, whoa, you got some VHS.
A couple, yeah, and then it still goes around the corner. There's
Yeah,
some
you
other
might
work.
be beating Ponca in there. I don't know if you've
I
seen.
do. I did. I just had that conversation with her the other day. But nobody beats my Little Mermaid collection.
Are those the original cover Little Mermaid?
Yeah, that's the only reason I have them.
I mean, we could talk about that for a while, but
So the sculptures, these sculpture painting things, I'd love to put them in the online space.
yeah.
I actually priced them at $40. So
Oh, cool.
those are $40 pieces. I'm trying to make things that are inexpensive. I think we all need a little art in our lives, and
Sure.
I'm gonna make a bunch of them. So, and then also trades are welcome. Other artists that are also hurting financially and want to trade. I don't care if we know each other or if we don't know each other. I just want to start conversations and new relationships and get more connected to the people that are making art or trying to make art.
Well, I'm going to send you some info so that we can get it up on the Bread and Salt Artist Store. There's two versions of that store. There's one store that's for Ponca's stuff that's currently in the gallery. And then there's another store that's 100% of the proceeds go to the artist. So
yeah,
I just want to remind people tomorrow is Tatiana Ortiz Rubio. And then Tuesday is Sophie Ramos and Jason Sherry, Belize Aristane. We're still adding people all the time.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who tuned in and left comments and gave us the time of day.
And all of the videos will end up on YouTube also. So we're, takes a little while to upload all that stuff, but everybody can go and watch the videos on there. I think there's over a dozen interviews on there where people can go watch older videos. Some of them end up being 2 parts, which I don't like doing that because it gets more complicated. But yeah, thanks for talking today, Daniel.
Cool. Likewise. When are you going to let me interview you?
Never.
Come on.
No, I'm good.
All right.
But
that's enough of that, hell. Yeah. I keep giving you grief.
Well, cool. I'm going to send you a link for stuff and we'll hopefully get stuff on the site really soon, as soon as you send us some stuff. So
yeah, I mean, I can get that to you tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for talking to me.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.